Liz, how did you find carnivore?
Well, I found carnivore about, uh, well, I would say about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, is when I first really heard about carnivore uh, properly. Prior to that, I was just approaching my 52nd birthday around about then. But so for many years before that, I had been on various diets trying to lose weight over the years, from my teenage years right through. And my weight had been up and down a lot, particularly in my late teens, early 20s. I'd tried every single diet going. I think when you go into your teenage years as a woman, as a girl, that's when you start to become a little bit self-conscious, and you want to fit in, and you want to have this amazing body that you just don't feel like you're ever going to have. Um, and followed the usual guidelines on low fat, uh, and which naturally pushes you into high carb, as I realise now. But you don't think like that. You're just eating what's available. And to be fair, I had a really sweet tooth anyway, so it was calories in, calories out. Basically, was my mindset. But so along with that, there were lots of diets out there that were being promoted. So I've done everything: Slim Fast, Slimming World, cereal, the Special K diet that was out there at the time. There, I did also. I'd heard about Atkins and things, but I didn't really go down that very far. Um, and I had eating disorders, as a lot of. In fact, I think we're probably look now. I know differently. I think most of us are in an eating disorder. We're not. We're eating the things that are wrong for us and causing disorders. The way that we think about food, the way that we approach food is very hedonistic, really. We eat food to make ourselves feel better, to get slim, um, which food was never designed to make us slim. It was just not designed to make us fat either. You don't see, if you see a skinny animal running around, you worry about it. If you see a fat animal running around, you worry about it. But that's not how we see it. The skinnier you are, the better. I can remember a certain model saying nothing tastes as good as skinny feels, and I knew that feeling as in my 20s. Um, so I would do anything to be skinny and feel skinny. Try everything. So high fiber was a way to go for me, because I thought, well, food in, food out. You're not going to put any weight on that way. So uh, all brand diet became my diet. uh, my son in my late 20s would call me the all brand lady. Uh,
I was going to say it's like the diet of the pensioner.
well, yeah, yeah. But I'd got it in my head, oh, well, this will just come straight through, no stocking, no weight going on me. Anything to not have that food in you because you needed it out. And then I got little bit less concerned in my 30s. I was still concerned, but I was a little bit more balanced, I suppose, in my thinking, but still eating all the wrong things. And then I put weight on, and I'd be okay for a bit about it, and then I've got to get it off, got to get it off. There'd always be a big, and so then I'd lose it all. And in my 30s, I could do that really easily. But then I hit my 40s, and it was like my body had had enough of this yo-yo dieting, this up and down. It just was like, no way, not doing this, not doing it anymore. You've lost this battle, Liz. You've done it too many times, and it just stuck, and the weight just kept going on. And I would lose a little bit. I'd try again, but I was just starving all the time. And I think that's what we are. I think we're starving all the time. I was starving all the time, which would then cause me to overeat again. And it was all the wrong stuff. It was all sugars and stuff. So my weight went on really big time in my 40s. That's when I really went into the menopause. And it was, I gradually crept up, and I was in that time as well. I was getting poorlier and poorlier. Well, I started with, like I say, I think I was in the menopause, perimenopause anyway, as they say, although I've changed my opinion on that as well. But anyway, my body was just hormonally imbalanced, let's put it that way. And my blood pressure was going up. I'd got aches and pains where I shouldn't have aches and pains at that age, and I was really, really big. So I was, by the time I'd done 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 2022, earlier than that, I was up around 19 and a half stone, and in a bad way. So some people I'm only 5'4", uh, and I was in a bad way. There was a lot of stress in my life at that time, a lot of difficult times that I was going through, as there is in most people's lives. But my body, it was all coming out in my health, in my physical health. Migraines, I would have migraines at least once a week, and headaches every day. I would wait. And speaking to a nurse that I know, she says, I imagine you were probably pre-diabetic or type 2 diabetic at that time, just giving you all your symptoms that I was talking about. I never went to doctors. I had an issue with doctors. So, and I knew what they were going to say. I knew they were going to say, you need to lose weight, or do you know what I mean? And I knew what I needed to do. I just couldn't do it. And literally, I don't think people, if you've never had an issue with weight, they understand that. They don't understand that you're trying. You're not always just sitting there scoffing your face. There's a mentality saying you need to lose weight, but whatever you try doesn't work, or it works for a very short time. You start to see some weight come off, but you're starving hungry, so you start eating again, and
Right.
you're eating all the wrong stuff.
And that's the annoying thing about going to see the doctor, because the doctor's like, "Let me give you some advice, but give you some action steps that don't work."
Yeah,
So you need to lose weight, just eat less and move more.
yeah, yeah. And it was just it. It's a kind of insanity. I feel like sometimes I felt like I was insane, and that why couldn't I do what other people seem to be able to do? I know now that many people who I look at as doing that are actually quite ill, and very often they're compensating somewhere else. Um, is what I've discovered since doing carnivore. Anyway, it all hit ahead. 2019, I lost my mum. In a really short space of time, there was just a one wham after the other in terms of emotional and mental well-being. So I went into bereavement. I was very close to my mum. We were like busy mates, and it was a very quick, um, short illness. I'd just moved into a much senior position in the organisation I worked for, and following almost immediately after the funeral, I was moved up again and I threw myself into work thinking that, that's a way to handle grief. You don't want to dwell on grief, so just work, work, work. And then that was 2019, towards the end of 2019, we went into COVID stuff, 2020 lockdown. And the organisation I worked for was dealing with homelessness. So we had a whole big pile of, we worked in homeless accommodation. So we were kind of like really snowed under with trying to manage all of that. Um, Lots and lots of organisational changes, which piled stress on me because I was higher up in the organisation. Family issues, then all the weight issues, I went into menopause at that time, full blown menopause. The sickness, the illness, my blood pressure went through the roof at that time. They were really concerned, put me on some blood pressure tablets, which um, I got swollen ankles from. And I know that sounds mad because I was already this huge lady anyway, but I'd never really suffered with swollen ankles. But my ankles and legs started to really swell. And so I went back to the doctor and said, these tablets are making my ankles swell. And he's like, oh, it's probably not the tablets. And I'm like, well, I think it is because, so he wouldn't take me off them. And in the end, I just stopped taking them, which was really silly. I know, but I just thought I'll find another way. I'll find another way to reduce my blood pressure. And I always kind of knew it must be because I'm so overweight. It must be because of what my diet. So I was very ill, very poorly. I'd got chest pains. I think looking back, I was probably like a stroke or a heart attack waiting to happen, just because of the level of illness and the level of disability. I was becoming more and more disabled. I had a fear of falling because I thought if I fall, I'm probably never getting back up again because I was so big, so heavy, so disabled in lots of ways. Carried on for a while, and then in 2022, it was like everything just went well. Towards the end of 2021, I just knew I had to stop. I knew I had to stop work. I had to stop everything. My mental health was it had just had enough. My body had had enough, and if your body's had enough, your mind's had enough. If your mind's had enough, it all has enough. And I just needed to stop. So that was when I stopped. Thought I was in a really fortunate position. My husband could support us while I did that. So, and it was then that I started to really work on my mental and emotional well-being. I realised that I'd allowed a lot of stresses in, but I don't think we realise when we're eating badly how it's just one system. So dysregulating your your hormones through what you're eating or what you're ingesting, you're poisoning your system, which is going to affect your mental health. It's going to affect your emotional health, but you
Yeah.
do not realise that
Yeah,
at all.
we just don't think we think of everything in these little compartments rather than everything actually has flow-on effects.
Yeah. Well, I worked with people with alcohol addiction and drug addiction, and you naturally know that. If they could deal with the addiction side, but you can't just deal with the addiction side. You've got to deal with the emotional and mental stuff as well. It's all one. You can move somebody away from a substance that's bad for them, but they'll go and substitute that substance with something else because the mental and emotional stuff is still out of sync. It's all one system. We are one body, and part of that body is a mind and a soul and the rest of it. So we need to deal with that. So I kind of thought, get my mental and everything right. Which was really good. And I was able to do that because I didn't have the extra stresses. I did a lot of painting at that time, painted a lot of trees. I'm not very good, but it was the one thing that I got into a bit of mindfulness and stuff then. And I started to think about, it was late on in 2022. Um, I know not everybody believes in God, but this was my experience. I'd been out with my sister, and we'd had a few to drink, as we like to do. Uh, we didn't really overdrink a lot, but sometimes when it was just us two, we might have a little binge. Uh, and we found ourselves, and we're very, very close, my sister, being really nasty to each other, really, in our conversation. Uh, And we knew it was the drink. We both knew it. We'd both wandered off into our childhood where we were ba 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 ba, and we got very childish and a bit mouthy. And I came in from that experience, and it was fine. It was like, oh, I've had a bit too much to drink. I'll sort it out with her in the morning, which we did. We always do. And then but it was that night when I really felt I went to bed and I'm thinking about how I'd just descended into this person that I didn't want to be. I don't want to be that person. And I felt these words would watch your mouth, not just what comes. And I always, my mum used to be one of my mum's saying, watch your mouth, if I ever veered off with a naughty word, watch your mouth, Liz. But I felt it was not what comes out of it, what goes into it. And I thought, that's the alcohol. If when I put alcohol in it, it affects everything. So I thought, oh yeah, I'm going to have to start watching the alcohol, and because I want to be this decent person who's balanced. So that started with the alcohol, and that was the end of 2022, and then into 2023. I really put that into practice. I would really moderate on. I didn't say I'd completely cut it out, but I was very careful because I thought I don't want to hurt people's feelings just because I've let myself go a little bit. Um, so obviously sorted it out with my sister and everything. But then early on in 2023, started to watch a lot of podcasts. So again, I'm working on my mental health, my physical health, and being able to relate well. And that was all what was going off. And started listening to. I was listening to Steve Bartlett on the Diary of the CEO. I'm sure it was Steve Bartlett. But anyway, I was listening to Jordan Peterson. I'd been watching a bit of Jordan Peterson, and it it was either on the Diary of the CAO or another one that I watched, where he talked about the fact that his daughter was on a meat only diet. And that was the first time I'd really I'd heard of paleo before. I'd tried paleo in the past. I'd, I'd heard of low carb diets, and I did believe that was the way to go because I'd tried that in the past, but it hadn't particularly worked for me. So I started to YouTube, as it does, sends you down a rabbit warren of all these different people talking, and I thought I'm going to try this. I'm going to try the keto a bit. Fasting, I'd started to look into fasting. I'd listened to the Glucose Goddess, that had really opened my mind again to all this, the way that your blood sugar works and glucose and insulin and all that, and these spikes that we have through the day, which really affect. And it all made sense. It all made sense to me. So I started to look at that, and I said to my husband, I'm going to follow the Glucose Goddess way. I'm going to, try that a little bit. I'm going to try a bit of fasting, try a bit of paleo again. Started all that, but I kept hearing about this carnivore, this total no veg, no fruit, no, just meat on your plate. And I can remember thinking it's insane, and they're insane, and they're all that. I don't even believe that people do that. I just couldn't. I couldn't imagine it, and I think, and then people would say, "Oh yeah, just have a plate of mince beef if you can't." And I'm like, "You're ridiculous. You can't just have a plate of mince beef. What does that even look like? It's for somebody who likes cooking and all that." I'm like, no, ridiculous. Uh, but the more I heard, the more I thought, well, why is it ridiculous? And I started to listen to all the doctors, Dr. Anthony Chapin. You look at him and you think, well, if he's eating that way and he looks pretty good, and Dr. Ken Berry, and my husband was watching with me as well. I'm like, look at these guys. They're not fat doctors telling us what to do. Like we've got it. Sorry, they're not all fat. The doctor who told me about my blood pressure was, I'm like, you've got no right to tell me anyway. But that's another story. Anyway, so I started listening and I thought, do you know what? Do you know what? I don't believe you can do this really. We'd cut out bread and pasta and potato by this point, my husband and I. We were still having veggies and we were still having fruit. But the thing I did notice with doing that, I wanted more. I always wanted more. So I would eat the meat and the veg and that'd be fine. But then I'd think, oh, I'll have a bit of fruit to finish up, have a bit of fruit. And immediately that would not be enough. It would be about half an hour later, I'd want some more. And I was constantly fighting the hunger feeling that I'd always fought and always had to do. And these were all saying you're not hungry on this way. And I thought, well, I can't imagine that's ridiculous. But okay, I'm going to get. And I can remember my husband just walking in one day, and I just said, right, no more veg, no more fruit. You can have all that. I'm going for it for a month just to see. Because I'd listened to loads of people and I'd listened to the sort of like science behind it and the sort of like knowledge. And it just seemed like these people hadn't just thrown a diet together and you weren't paying anything. And I liked that because everything else there was always a catch. Yeah.
Everything always seems much more above board when you don't have to invest in a program to get started, right?
That was it. That was the key because everything that you look at, you listen to all this talk and all this, and you're like, oh, I'm buying into this. Then there's something to buy at the end, or you've got to join this club, or you've got to, and it's like there was none of this. This was just genuine doctors telling you what they did and how they advised their patients, and you could either do it or not. It's up to you. So I thought, right, okay, I'll give it a month and I'll see how I go. And that was in 2023. And because I'd just been on holiday, just come back from holiday, I'd been away um, with my stepdaughter had got married in Cyprus, um, and I I was massive. I was massive. I'd loved the holiday because, like I said, got myself into a great mental state, and I kind of would resign myself to the fact you're fat, but you're old and fat, so it doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean? Nobody's looking at you for your looks anyway, so what's it matter? Always, never about my health. It was always about my looks. So you're fat, blah blah blah. So I'd kind of had a good holiday, but I'd been so limited in what I could do. I could only lie by the pool and things like that. So um, and I just felt sorry for my husband, who's always kept himself really well and healthy. Not the best diet in the world, but because he's always worked out, it's been a bit of a balance for him. Account balance is always, and he was off doing all sorts of things, and I couldn't do it with him. And I always think that's sad, isn't it? Really. So when I came back off holiday, I thought, right, okay, I've listened to all of this now. I'm going for it. I'm really going to go for it and see what happens. Uh, Fully not expecting. I thought it was insane. I thought putting a bit of meat on your plate with nothing else on it was just nuts. But here I go. It's only for a month. Nothing's going to kill you in a month. So that was it. Well, it completely, within days, I was seeing noticeable changes. So the first one was waking up one morning feeling like I'm being looked at, and so I opened my eyes. My husband's just hovering over the top of me, and I screamed, "Ah, what are you doing?" Uh, he thought I died because he couldn't hear me breathing. He couldn't hear me snoring, and I'd always snored. I'd always been heavy breathing, and that was in a couple of days. after starting carnivore. And so he couldn't, because he couldn't hear me breathing, he thought I'd died. So he went downstairs and made a cup of tea while I had to think about whether I were dead or alive. And then he came back up again. Bless him. So he came back up again, realised I wasn't dead. And then when he said I'd stopped snoring, I was like amazed because I'd always snored. I'd always caused a problem for anybody I went away with because of the snoring. So that was, and I'd heard that other people that had been one of the first signs of inflammation leaving your body. So that gave me encouragement. So that was in the first, like, yeah, first couple of days. And then I'd, like I say, I'd had all these other symptoms. So I had really bad pains in my knees and my hips, which made walking really difficult. Going up and downstairs, I would have to pull myself up and downstairs. And within a really short space of time, I was able to walk up and downstairs with no problem at all. Um, and that was probably the first. I can remember walking up the stairs, probably about. I really want to say. I mean, I hadn't lost any weight at this point. Um, I was. I can't say I'd lost any weight because I didn't weigh myself because I was scared of the scales. I'm like, what if I don't lose as much weight as I want to? That's going to put me off. I don't want to look at it really. I know that sounds mad, but I'd kind of been obsessed with scales all the way through my life, and I didn't want to get back into that sort of mentality. So I didn't weigh myself, but I can't have lost that much because it was only a couple of weeks in. And I can remember walking upstairs and getting all the way to the top, thinking, wow, I didn't have to stop. I didn't have to stop on the way up. Wow. And it's not hurting. It's not hurting that much. So that was the first. And I couldn't get on the floor easily at all. If I went down on the floor, I've got a young grandson. If I went on the floor to play with him, it really, really hurt. It hurt my back, it hurt my knees, it hurt my hips. And he would often say, come and get on the floor and play a game with me, Grandma. And I'd say, bring your things over here and I'll sit on the settee and do it that way. And this one day, but sometimes he wanted me on the floor. So I would get down and I'd be in agony and it just hurt me so badly to get back up. I'd have to pull myself up really hard on the settee. And I can remember going and getting on the floor with him and feeling okay. And my husband was with me this one time, and this was literally, I think, two weeks into carnivore, 3 weeks at the most, 3 weeks, but I think it was 2. And he got on he was sat there, and my little grandson said to me, Mama, will you get me something? And I just sprung up. I just got up, just bounced up, and went off to get it. And didn't even notice myself. And my husband like, what on earth? What on earth? What did you do then? And I'm like, what are you talking about? He says, you just sprung up and see it. So like he was well shocked at me springing. I mean, I'm no spring chicken anyway, but do you know what I mean? Like to see me bouncing up, wobbling. He's seen me that. He's seen me, help me up, help me up. He's hoiked me up. So that was a bit of a surprise. So that's happened really, really fast within a couple of weeks. And then following on from that, the weight just started to come off. Just I had just started a little job, and I had a belt that they'd given me for this job, which had keys and stuff on, and this belt had been on the very first setting, the very first hole when I put it on, which was really embarrassing. It was big enough to go around a man. So do you know what I mean? I felt really embarrassed that I was on this first setting. Within a really short space of time, Chris was, I was pulling it halfway round, and then Chris had to put extra holes in. So, so that was really fast. So I knew weight was coming up, and I think that's when I started to kind of like check my weight a little bit. And it was just falling off me at rates of knots. Um,
And for me, I'd like to know your thoughts on this. For me, as weight was coming off, of course, it's nice to look in the mirror and go, "Oh, wow, I look much better than I did yesterday," or whatever. But the best feeling is just that you start to feel more comfortable, like
yeah,
when you put the belt on.
yeah, just normal comfort things that you don't. I immediately the bloating. So I just thought that's fat. I'm fat, and that's what's making me feel uncomfortable when I eat or when I drink or whatever I do. It's the fat. But the bloating went really fast. It was like that feeling of like hard pain in your stomach that I just got so used to, and that went. So just being comfortable, just not when you're sitting down, just not feeling like you're carrying a whole other. Well, I was carrying a whole other person because when I look back now, but do you know, I felt pregnant a lot of the time. I felt like I'd got hard weight around my stomach.
So how much have you lost?
So in all, in 2 years, so in the first 18 months, I had lost, let me just have a quick look. What was it? 9 stone, I think. Yeah, I'd lost 9 stone. I'd gone from 19 and a half down to 10 and a half. And that was in 18 months. And then in the last year, the last 6 months, I've lost another stone. So I've lost 10 stone in all. I've lost a whole person. When I say
So
it like that,
you've literally halved in weight because that's been like from 200 and talking in pounds. So it's like from
yeah,
273 pounds to about 130 something.
yeah, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, well, my sister, I've got three sisters, and one of my sisters is roughly around 10 stone, and I always liken it to I've been carrying her around with me all that time. So no
And
wonder that.
you think what that's doing to your body as well? Because if you had to like carry that amount of shopping around with you now, you'd be
Yeah,
struggling, right?
yeah, really, and man, obviously the food that I was consuming was all also inflaming everything. So I was so like I my blood pressure, like I say, was through the roof, which it was going to be anyway. If I was just carrying that weight but eating really healthily, I wouldn't have had the inflammation as badly. But I was inflamed everywhere, my everything, because that's the thing that shocked me was that that the pain went first. So the pain in my knees and my hips went, um, without really losing loads of weight. And I'd always just thought it was the weight of that, but the inflammation was in there. That went. That enabled me to move more. All the things that they said to do, move, eat less, move more. I can't say I was eating a lot less. I suppose in some ways I wasn't eating as many. Well, I certainly wasn't eating any kind of snacks or anything like that, and I wasn't I was eating probably 2 meals a day, but I was eating a lot at those meals. I was eating, having a good steak and having a lot of eggs. So calorie wise, it's just nonsense to say it's calories in, calories out. But there's a thing that I was able to move more because I didn't have the inflammation I didn't have the pain. Now, it's not to say that it's healed certain things. I mean, it has. My blood pressure is to normal now, whereas it was literally through the roof. I mean, I can't. I'm not very good with numbers. I have a problem with numbers, but I think it was something like two. It was over. So yeah, I would say it was like 190 or 200, over 200 to 110 or something like. It was really, really dangerously high. Um, and that now it's normal. It's like usually between 115 over 60 or something like that. It's really, really normal. But and all that's gone, and I had pains in my chest. when I was because I got all of that was healed, and I just feel like not all of that was to do with the weight. The weight was a symptom, of everything else. I couldn't have done this. I was moving more because I could, and I had energy now. The other way of eating totally depleted. If ever so I haven't always been pure. So like if I've gone on a holiday or I might have had some time off, but instantly, this is what keeps me on the straight and narrow now. Is instantly I eat something that I shouldn't eat, I hurt. So I haven't healed in my knees. If I bend down, I can still hear that sound of creaky knees. You can hear all the rubbish. So they're not healed, but I have no pain. So I can do the things that I need to do in terms of exercise and getting up and down and all the rest of it without any pain, without causing any discomfort. It caused me any discomfort, the same, I imagine, with other parts of my body. Um, but when I eat something that I shouldn't, if I have seed oils, they are the worst. Like I never even thought about when I went on this. Seed oils don't particularly put on your weight or anything like that. But if I have anything, if I go out for a meal and somebody's fried it in seed oils, the pain, and I get this headache but it keeps me on the straight. I kind of embrace that now because I think, well, now I know instantly when I've done something I shouldn't. And
See, the thing is, like you mentioned the word guardrails, it's really good that this is a guardrail now. So, like, if you do deviate, your body goes, hey, get back on track. But it couldn't do that before. Same for me, because you are so inflamed and you're basically deluging your body in this garbage all the time that your body just can't keep up. So you don't know what a bad feeling is
no,
because that's your baseline.
and the other side of that is so true. I understand why it's an addiction as well, because all you are trying to do very often with your moods, if they're dysregulated, with your emotions, with pain, you're trying to comfort yourself. You're trying to take away that feeling, whether it's gut bloating, whether it's pain, emotional pain, or psychological pain, or irritability. I mean, I think irritability is one of the big things. It's that restlessness, that urge to find something to satisfy you. You feel dissatisfied in life all the time. Which, as a Christian, I was told, come to Jesus. You're going to feel satisfied, and there is that. There is that for me, that I am satisfied in my faith. But in my body, in my hormones, there's this irritability all the time, not knowing that the very food that I'm trying to comfort myself with, or the drink, or whatever it is, trying to comfort myself with, is the irritant. It's the thing that's going to cause you to feel dissatisfied. Uh, and we know that's because it's lacking in any true nutrients. Now we know that when you've listened to enough people, you realise our bodies are crying out for the right nutrients. Once it has the right nutrients, your body, whole of your body, your mind, your body, your soul go, we got what we wanted. You can stop trying now. You don't have to search anymore for anything. You
Mm.
go. And that's the level I've got to mentally and emotionally and spiritually and physically, is I'm completely satiated now. I walk around in that sense of everything's good, which you never have before.
Yeah, it's funny when you first start experiencing it that and go, You mean I could have felt like this all the time?
And you just want to take your brain and put it into somebody else's brain because they think it's all, oh, she's really happy because she's lost all the weight. I'm like, ah, you don't understand. That never made me happy before. When I was in my 20s and I used to be skinny Marie, whatever you want to call me, running around skinnies, and I was never happy, never satisfied. Why? Because I was starving. I was
Yeah,
starving. I was starving for the right things, and eating all the wrong things, and dysregulating every single part of my system, my nervous system, my emotional system, my hormones. Everything was dysregulated. So nobody can convince me that it's the way. I mean, I'm 50 odd. I've got a lovely husband who's loved me, whatever size I am. He's never once made me feel inadequate. Never once made me feel like I should be better. He worried about my health. That's the truth. So I'm not doing this anymore for. Yes, it's nice. It's nice to be able to wear nice stuff. My sister, my other sister, who's also she's not fully carnivore, but she absolutely believes in the whole principles behind it. And when she, most of the time she is now. She took me out shopping the other day, but we got some lovely clothes, and it's nice to be able to go and get really nice clothes. That I'm a woman. I like nice stuff. And to feel nice is great, and that is, I'm not denying that. However, this is so much more than that. It is a mind. It's like the peace, the food noise is totally gone, and people can't understand that either. Do you know that you don't have to constantly be obsessing about what you can and can't eat and feeling guilty and shameful if do you know what I mean? If your
yeah,
salad doesn't satisfy you.
right. Yeah. So on that, what's your a typical menu like for you during the day?
Yeah, so it's pretty much as it's been for the last 2 years. So I tend, in the beginning, I did a lot of fasting, and I think I could because I had a lot of fat on me then, excess fat. So my body had plenty to go at. It was never going to starve for probably about a year. It had a whole person to eat up before it got to me. So I don't fast as long as I used to in terms of days or that. So occasionally I will, but that's just for my spiritual walk, really, more than anything. Um, but I do a 16, so I'll usually not eat till after lunch, but I wake up not hungry anyway. I just and at that point I will either have about 4 or 5 eggs scrambled in butter, or I'll have a steak. I generally I'm not a, I will have chicken and other meat, but predominantly it's beef or lamb. I find those are the things that really satiate me. If I eat chicken, I don't feel quite as satiated. I get that hunger feeling again. So I don't think chicken's the best for me. But I will have it occasionally. I like a bit of tuna. So I have chicken, I have beef or eggs at lunchtime, and I might have if I've just had eggs at lunchtime, then probably about 7 o'clock at night when I get in from work, I'll have a steak, or something like that. Usually, yeah. So that's usually it through the day. A couple of meals that are meat heavy, or and then I drink sparkling water as a rule. I do keep my coffee. I do have coffee, and I know that dairy and cheese and Greek yogurt, while they don't, um, some people have them, and I love them. I love them. So, but they can be kind of addictive to me. I kind of want too much of them, so I leave those for weekends. I have those at weekends as my treat. It's like, I think, because there's a sort of mentality that weekends are for fun and weekends are for family and for feasting. So in order to just mix it up, I'll have things like that at the weekend.
Right.
But not too much, not too much,
Mm.
because yeah, and that's it. That's how I eat.
So it's carnivore forever. There's no going back.
No going. I can't. So, like I say, every time I've tried to, well, tried to, sometimes I've just thought, oh, I'm going to have something. I'm going to. I'll see what's what. If I've gone out and oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I instant inflammation. It's like that Carb that we talked about. So no, there's no going back for me. I wouldn't want to not feel like this anyway. I'm a bit of a carnivore evangelist. So so like, soon as anybody tells me, see, I'm in my 50s. My friends are in their 50s. A lot of them are younger. Some are even older. As soon as they tell me about any of their ailments, which like I'm like, oh, I've got try this for a month. And blah, 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 blah. And I think I drive people crazy. I can't help it. Oh. And I do apologise a lot for not being able to shut up about it. But I'm just so passionate. I just think, oh, we don't have to be sick like we are. We don't have to be ill. But I found that most people are not willing, not interested, which is fine. But I have found some people who've, my husband, so he's pretty good at, throughout the week. He will have he'll eat carnivore like me. He'll just be meat and eggs and that. He does incorporate, so it's more keto really. He will have um, he likes onions with his steak, and if he goes out at a weekend, he always lets himself have something that is sweet or whatever because he likes to. Doesn't affect him the same as it does me, but he's lost a little bit of weight, which to be fair, he doesn't want to lose weight. He likes being bigger. So he didn't. He was a bit careful that he didn't want to lose too much weight. But yeah. So he's with me 100% really most of the time, and he's really careful. If I say to him, "Look, if you buy that in, it's going to tempt me just mentally." So he doesn't buy things in. He'll if he's going to get something, he gets it and eats it in the car or puts it in his garage or whatever, and leaves it out my way. Um,
Nice. So based on your experience, Liz, if a friend came to you and said they want to start carnivore, what advice would you give them to maximize their chances of success in that first 30 days?
yeah, I mean, I would. It depends on them. I think I went full bore. I went full bore into it. I just went the whole hog, uh, cut everything out because that's me. Um, I would probably suggest not doing that immediately. I would say get rid of every processed food that you've got in your house. Get rid of it. Just throw it out. And be like ruthless and get rid of it. And just and fruit. Get rid of fruit because I think it's full of sugars and stuff. And if you want a little bit of veg with your meat, go for that. I would tell them to eat the beef and lamb because I think it is the most satiating. And tell them to just give it the 30 days. Just tell them to go, you know, just be determined and to monitor what happens in your body because I know for a fact things improve. I've seen it so many times with so many of my friends who've tried it at least, and they just come back with really good reports. So I'd say go for it, and then eventually get rid of your veggies if you can. And yeah, I would just tell them to go for it.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to sell it to someone. Transition in by getting rid of everything except your veggies. And
Yeah,
then when they're feeling better after 30 days, which most people are going to feel somewhat better after doing keto,
yeah.
they come back to you and you say, you know what? You could feel even better than you do now. Just ditch the veggies.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So if people want to reach out to you, Liz, do you have any social media or any way of getting in contact?
No, they can get in contact with me. I'm quite happy for people to get in contact with me. I've just got just normal Facebook under Lizbeth, and yeah, anyone can get in touch with me. I'm on a few groups anyway, so I'm on like the Christian Carnivores for Christ, and also World Carnivore Tribe, and just different ones like that. Carnivore Girl, I join them, and I do pop in little things. But you can put my email address in there as well. I'm quite happy for people to get in touch with me that way.
Yeah, no problems. So I'll put those in the show notes. Liz, thanks for coming back on and letting us know how things are going. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.